My twin used me as free childcare for her affair, so I told her husband. The notification sound from Emma's phone cut through the silence of her living room like a knife. I glanced over from where I was folding tiny Batman pajamas, her son Jake's favorite pair, and saw the screen light up on the coffee table where she'd left it charging. Asterisk, can't wait to see you tonight, beautiful. Room 412 at the Marriott. Asterisk. My hands froze mid-fold. The message preview showed a contact saved simply as M with a fire emoji. Not Mike, her husband of 8 years. Not Mark from accounting or any other innocent workplace contact. Just M with that stupid little flame icon that made my stomach drop to the floor. I shouldn't have looked. I know that. But Emma had been in my shower for 20 minutes, and her phone kept buzzing with message after message from this mystery person. 3 weeks of emergency babysitting requests were suddenly starting to make a whole lot more sense. Aunt Sarah, can we have ice cream? 5-year-old Jake's voice snapped me back to reality. He was standing in the doorway with his little sister Lily, both of them still in their muddy clothes from the playground. After dinner, buddy, I managed, shoving the pajamas into the laundry basket. Go wash your hands. Emma emerged from my bathroom 10 minutes later looking like she was ready for a magazine photo shoot, not another mandatory work dinner with the regional manager. Her dark hair, identical to mine down to the stubborn cowlick near her left temple, was perfectly styled in loose waves. The black dress she'd borrowed from my closet hugged her figure in a way that definitely wasn't appropriate for any work function I'd ever attended. You're a lifesaver, Sarah. I owe you big time. She kissed my cheek, leaving behind the scent of my expensive perfume, the one I saved for special occasions. I should be home by 11, but if it runs late. I'll stay over, I interrupted, the words tasting bitter. Like always. Emma paused, studying my face with those hazel eyes we shared. For a moment, I thought she might actually tell me the truth. That she might explain why she'd been having me babysit every Thursday for the past 3 months, why she needed me to watch the kids during work emergencies that always seemed to happen on weekends, why she'd started wearing makeup to grocery store runs. Instead, she smiled that same bright, empty smile she'd been giving me since we were kids whenever she was about to get away with something. You're the best sister ever. I don't know what I'd do without you. The irony wasn't lost on me. She literally didn't know what she'd do without me, because I was the one making her affair possible. After she left in a cloud of vanilla body spray and lies, I sat on my couch staring at the Batman pajamas. Jake had been asking why mommy was gone so much lately. Lily had started crying every time Emma tried to leave, clinging to her legs like she somehow sensed that something was wrong. And Mike. God, Mike had been texting me for weeks, worried about Emma working such long hours. Asking if I thought she seemed stressed, if maybe they needed a vacation, if I'd noticed her acting differently. I'd been covering for her without even realizing it. Every "oh, you know how demanding her job is and she's probably just tired" had been another lie added to the pile. My phone buzzed. A text from Mike, asterisk, thanks again for watching the kids tonight. Emma's so lucky to have you. We both are. Asterisk. I stared at those words until they blurred. That night, after putting Jake and Lily to bed in my spare room for the 3rd time this month, I found myself doing something I'd never thought I'd do. I started paying attention to details I'd been blindly accepting. Emma's work dinner alibi fell apart within minutes of basic scrutiny. Her company's website showed no mention of any regional manager visit. Their social media had posted about the entire management team attending a conference in Denver, a conference that had ended 2 days ago. I sat in my darkened living room at 10:47 p.m., laptop screen glowing, feeling like the world's most naive idiot. The pieces clicked together with sickening clarity. M wasn't some random contact, it was Marcus Hoffman, the new marketing director who'd started at her firm in January. I'd met him exactly once, at the company picnic in March, where he'd spent an uncomfortable amount of time complimenting Emma's presentation skills while Mike was getting the kids snow cones. I remembered how Emma had suddenly started caring about that job again after 2 years of complaining about it. How she'd begun working out religiously, buying new clothes, getting her hair done every 6 weeks instead of every 3 months. I'd attributed it to a newfound confidence after her promotion to senior project manager. God, I'd even encouraged it. You deserve to feel good about yourself, I'd told her just last week. Mike's lucky to have such an ambitious wife. My phone buzzed at 11:23 p.m., asterisk running later than expected. Mind staying over? I owe you breakfast in the morning. Asterisk. I typed and deleted a dozen responses. Where are you really? Delete. Who is Marcus Hoffman? Delete. How long have you been lying to me? Delete. Finally, asterisk of course. See you in the morning. Asterisk. But Emma didn't come home in the morning. At 6:47 a.m., while I was making chocolate chip pancakes for Jake and Lily, she texted, asterisk emergency at the Riverside project site. Going straight to work from downtown. You're seriously an angel. Asterisk. The Riverside project had been completed in February. I drove the kids to their daycare at 8:30 a.m., making small talk with Mrs. Peterson about pickup times while internally screaming. Jake mentioned that mommy had been having lots of sleepovers lately, like camping, but in hotels. Lily, barely 3 but frighteningly perceptive, asked why daddy looked sad all the time now. After dropping them off, I sat in my car in the parking lot and called Emma's office. Hi, this is Sarah Chen, Emma's sister. I'm trying to reach her about a family matter, but she's not answering her cell. Oh, Emma called in sick today, the receptionist chirped. Food poisoning from that work dinner last night. Poor thing sounded awful on the voicemail. I thanked her and hung up, my hands shaking. Emma had called in sick at 6:15 a.m. 28 minutes before texting me about the fictional Riverside emergency. She'd planned this lie while probably still in bed with Marcus, calculating exactly how to keep me trapped in her web of deception for another full day. My phone rang. Mike. Hey Sarah, sorry to bother you so early. Emma texted that she's stuck at some work thing, but I tried calling her office and they said she called in sick. I'm confused. I stared at my reflection in the rearview mirror, the same face that had been lying to this man for months without knowing it. The same eyes, the same mouth, the same genetic blueprint as a woman who was destroying his life one work emergency at a time. Mike, I said slowly, we need to talk. The words hung in the air between us, heavy with implications I wasn't sure I was ready to face. Mike's breathing was audible through the phone, and I could picture him standing in his kitchen, the one where Emma and I had baked cookies with the kids just last Sunday, laughing about some stupid joke from our childhood while he watched us with that fond smile he always got when he saw the twins together. What do you mean we need to talk? His voice carried a weight that told me he already suspected something. Maybe he'd been suspecting for weeks. I closed my eyes, gripping the steering wheel. Not over the phone. Can you meet me somewhere? Maybe Rosario's? That little cafe on 5th Street? Sarah, you're scaring me. I know. I'm sorry. Can you be there in an hour? The silence stretched for what felt like forever. Yeah, I'll be there. After hanging up, I drove home in a daze, my mind racing through everything I'd discovered in the past 12 hours. When I pulled into my driveway, I noticed Emma's car wasn't there. Of course it wasn't. She was probably still at the Marriott with Marcus, spinning new lies for tomorrow's work emergency. Inside my apartment, I found myself standing in front of the guest room where Jake and Lily had slept. Their little sneakers were lined up neatly by the bed, and Lily's stuffed elephant was tucked under the covers. These kids had been staying at my place so often lately that I'd started keeping their favorite cereals in my pantry and their backup clothes in my dresser. I'd been so proud of being the fun aunt. The reliable one. The one Emma could always count on. My laptop was still open on the coffee table from last night's research session. Almost without thinking, I found myself scrolling through Emma's company directory again. Marcus Hoffman, marketing director. Joined January 15th, divorced, according to his LinkedIn profile that I'd definitely spent too much time analyzing at 2 a.m. The timeline made sickening sense. Emma's first work emergency babysitting request had been January 28th, exactly 2 weeks after Marcus started. I kept a mental tally without realizing it: 14 Thursday night mandatory dinners, 8 weekend crisis meetings, and 5 overnight business trips that I now realized were just extended hotel stays 20 minutes from her house. 27 times. I'd enabled 27 separate betrayals. My phone buzzed with a text from Emma, feeling better. Heading home to shower and then to the office. Thanks for covering with Mike this morning. You always know exactly what to say. Red heart asterisk. The heart emoji felt like a slap. She was thanking me for lying to her husband. Praising me for being such an effective accomplice in destroying his trust, his marriage, his family. I screenshot the message without really knowing why, then shoved my phone into my purse and headed for Rosario's. Mike was already there when I arrived, sitting at a corner table with 2 untouched coffee cups in front of him. He looked like he hadn't slept, which, given that his wife hadn't come home last night, made perfect sense. His usually neat brown hair was disheveled, and he was wearing the same Seattle Mariners t-shirt he'd had on yesterday when I picked up the kids. I ordered your usual, he said as I sat down. Vanilla latte, extra shot. The casual kindness of it, that he remembered my coffee order, that he'd thought to get it for me even while his world was potentially falling apart, made my throat tight. Mike, I started, then stopped. How do you tell someone that their wife is cheating? How do you explain that you've been the unwitting facilitator of their betrayal for 3 months? He leaned forward, his dark eyes searching my face. It's Marcus Hoffman, isn't it? The coffee cup slipped from my fingers, hitting the saucer with a sharp clink that seemed to echo through the entire cafe. Mike's question hung between us like a loaded gun, and I realized that my face had already given him his answer. How long have you known? I whispered. Mike ran his hands through his hair, looking older than his 31 years. Known? I don't know anything for certain. But suspected. He laughed bitterly. God, Sarah, I've suspected for weeks. Maybe months. I just kept telling myself I was being paranoid. My stomach churned as I watched him piece together the same puzzle I'd solved in my living room 12 hours ago. What made you suspect? Little things at first. She started password protecting her phone in February, said it was for work security. Then she bought new lingerie, the expensive stuff from that boutique downtown, but never wore it for me. He stared into his coffee. And Marcus. I looked him up after that company picnic. Did you know he was at her last job too? In Portland, before we moved here? The revelation hit me like a physical blow. What? She never told you? Marcus worked at Brennan and Associates for 6 months while Emma was there. Left right before she got transferred to the Seattle office. Mike's voice was steady, but I could see his hands trembling. I thought it was just a coincidence when he showed up at her new company. What are the odds, right? My mind raced through the timeline. Emma had pushed hard for the transfer to Seattle 3 years ago, said she needed a fresh start after some office drama in Portland. I'd assumed it was typical workplace politics, maybe a difficult boss or a project that went sideways. Now I wondered if the fresh start had been running away from Marcus, only to have him follow her here. Mike, there's something else, I said, pulling out my phone with shaking fingers. I saw a text on Emma's phone last night. From someone saved as M with a fire emoji. I watched his face crumble as I showed him the screenshot. Asterisk, can't wait to see you tonight, beautiful. Room 412 at the Marriott. Asterisk. Jesus Christ. He covered his face with his hands. Room 412. Sarah, do you know how many times I've heard her on the phone confirming room numbers for client meetings? I thought. God, I'm such an idiot. I thought she was just being thorough about her bookings. The pieces were clicking into place with devastating precision. Every client dinner Emma had mentioned, every out-of-town presentation that kept her away overnight, they'd all been hotel rooms. And I'd been the one making it possible, taking Jake and Lily without question every single time. There's more, I said quietly. I called her office this morning. She's not at some Riverside project emergency, she called in sick with food poisoning. But she texted me saying she was going straight to work from downtown. Mike's laugh was hollow. The Riverside project finished in February. I know because Jake made her a congratulations card when she told us it was completed. He looked up at me with red-rimmed eyes. How many times, Sarah? How many times has she used you to cover for this? I did the math in my head again, each number feeling like a stone in my chest. 27 times since January. Maybe more if you count the short notice evening emergencies. 27. Mike repeated the number like he was trying to make sense of a foreign language. Jesus, Sarah. 27 times I thanked you for helping us out. 27 times I told my friends how lucky Emma and I were to have such a supportive family. A text notification chimed on my phone. Emma, asterisk crisis averted at the site. Should be home by 3 to relieve you from kid duty. You're seriously saving my life this week. 2 hearts asterisk. Mike read it over my shoulder. It's 11:30 a.m., and she texted you 45 minutes ago that she was heading to the office. I stared at the message, feeling something cold and final settle in my chest. Emma wasn't just lying to Mike anymore, she was lying to me in real time, probably from Marcus's bed, crafting elaborate fictional emergencies while I sat across from her devastated husband. Mike, I said slowly, I think we need to go to the Marriott. The drive to the Marriott felt like the longest 20 minutes of my life. Mike sat in my passenger seat, gripping his phone so tightly his knuckles had gone white. We'd decided he would call the hotel first, as Emma's husband, he had a better chance of getting information than I did. Yes, I'm trying to reach my wife, Emma Chen. She's in room 412 for a business meeting, but there's a family emergency. Mike's voice was steady, but I could see the muscle in his jaw twitching. What do you mean the room is registered under a different name? My stomach dropped as I pulled into the hotel parking lot. Mike listened for another moment, then hung up. The room is registered to Marcus Hoffman. Check-in was yesterday at 6:15 p.m. He stared at the hotel entrance. Sarah, they'd been there for almost 18 hours. While I was home with the kids, worried sick because she didn't come home, she was. I know, I said quietly, parking between a blue Honda and a black SUV that looked exactly like Emma's. Mike, is that Emma's car? We both stared at the black Acura 3 spots away. Same model, same year, same little dent on the rear bumper from when she backed into my mailbox last Christmas. The license plate confirmed it, Emma's vanity plate that read Twin Mom, a gift from Mike on Mother's Day 2 years ago. She told me she took an Uber downtown because of parking issues, Mike said hollowly. Another lie. God, Sarah, is there anything she's told me in the past 3 months that was actually true? My phone rang. Emma's name flashed on the screen, and Mike and I looked at each other in panic. Answer it, he whispered. Act normal. I need to hear what she says. I put the call on speaker, my hands shaking. Hey Em, how's the work crisis going? Oh my God, Sarah, it's been insane. We've been in emergency meetings since 7 a.m. Emma's voice sounded slightly breathless, and I could hear what sounded like a shower running in the background. The whole timeline for the project got moved up, and now we have to completely restructure the proposal. That sounds stressful, I managed, watching Mike's face grow darker with each word. It is, but I think we've got it handled now. Marcus, you remember Marcus from the company picnic, he's been amazing through all of this. Really going above and beyond. The casual way she said his name, like he was just some helpful colleague instead of the man she'd been sleeping with for months, made me want to scream. I'm sure he has, I said. Anyway, I should be wrapping up here soon. Maybe another hour or two? I know I said 3 o'clock, but you know how these corporate emergencies go. Can you pick up the kids from daycare if I'm running late? Mike was typing furiously on his phone. He held it up to show me, Mrs. Peterson texted. Kids were never dropped off today. Daycare called Emma's emergency contact, you, at 9 a.m. asking where they were. My blood turned to ice. Emma, where are Jake and Lily? There was a pause that lasted just a beat too long. What do you mean? They're at daycare. You dropped them off this morning, remember? No, Emma. I never dropped them off. Where are your children? The silence stretched for what felt like an eternity. I could hear Emma's breathing, the shower still running, and what might have been a male voice saying something in the background. Sarah, I'm confused. I thought you said you were taking them. They must be. Mike must have. Mike's been at work since 7 a.m., I said, my voice getting sharper. Emma, where are Jake and Lily? Are they with a babysitter? Are they alone? No. God, no, they're not alone. They're with Mrs. Patterson from next door. I asked her last minute when you couldn't, when the emergency came up so suddenly. But Mike was already shaking his head, pulling up his neighbor's contact. He called Mrs. Patterson while Emma continued spinning her story, and I watched his face go ashen. Mrs. Patterson hasn't seen the kids since Tuesday, he whispered. Sarah, my children are missing, and my wife is lying about where they are. The panic that shot through me was unlike anything I'd ever experienced. My twin sister was lying in a hotel room while her children were God knows where, and she was still spinning lies like her life depended on it. Emma, stop, I said, my voice sharp enough to cut glass. Mrs. Patterson doesn't have the kids. Mike just called her. Where are Jake and Lily right now? Another pause. The shower had stopped running. Okay, I got confused. They're with my babysitter, Jessica. You know, the college girl from down the street. Mike was already pulling up his contacts again, but I knew this was another lie. Emma didn't have a regular babysitter named Jessica. She had me. She'd always had me, reliable sister Sarah who dropped everything whenever she called. What's Jessica's last name? I pressed. What's her phone number? Sarah, why are you interrogating me? This is really weird. The kids are fine, they're safe, and I need to get back to this meeting. That's when I heard it clearly, a man's voice in the background saying, Em, come back to bed. The champagne's getting warm. Mike heard it too. His face went completely white, and for a moment I thought he might be sick right there in my car. Emma, I said slowly, put Marcus on the phone. The line went dead. Mike was already out of the car, striding toward the hotel entrance with a determination that scared me. I ran after him, my heels clicking against the asphalt as I tried to catch up. Mike, wait. We need to think about this. Think about what? He spun around, his eyes blazing. My wife is cheating on me in a hotel room while our children are missing. What exactly is there to think about? He was right, but the image of him confronting Emma and Marcus in their hotel room felt like it would destroy any chance of handling this rationally. Let me call her back first. Let me try to find out where the kids actually are. My phone rang before I could dial. Emma's name again. Sarah, I don't know what just happened, but we got disconnected and you were asking really strange questions. Her voice was different now, sharper, more defensive. The kids are fine. They're with a sitter. Everything is under control. Which sitter, Emma? Give me a name and number right now, or Mike and I are calling the police. You and Mike? Why is Mike with you? Sarah, what the hell is going on? I looked at Mike, who nodded grimly. We're in the Marriott parking lot, Emma. Looking at your car. The one you said you didn't drive because you took an Uber. The silence this time was deafening. When Emma finally spoke, her voice was barely a whisper. Sarah, please. Let me explain. Then explain. Where are Jake and Lily? They're with Mom. My heart stopped. Our mother lived in Phoenix. It was a 6-hour drive, or a 2-hour flight. Emma, what do you mean they're with Mom? I drove them down yesterday after work. I told them it was a surprise visit. Mom thinks Mike had to go out of town for work and I had that big presentation, so she was happy to take them for a few days. The timeline crashed into place. Emma had picked up the kids from daycare yesterday, driven them to our mother's house in Arizona, and then driven back to Seattle in time for her 6:15 p.m. hotel check-in with Marcus. She'd planned this elaborate deception days in advance. Emma, that's kidnapping, Mike said, loud enough for her to hear through the phone. You took my children out of state without telling me. They're my children too. Emma's voice cracked. And it's not kidnapping when it's their grandmother. Mike, please, I can explain everything. Just, give me 10 minutes. I'll meet you in the lobby. I looked at Mike, whose hands were clenched into fists at his sides. 10 minutes, he said. And then we're calling the police. The hotel lobby felt like a stage set for the worst performance of my life. Mike paced near the elevator bank while I sat rigidly in a burgundy armchair, watching every person who walked through the revolving doors. At 12:47 p.m., exactly 10 minutes after our phone call, Emma emerged from the elevator wearing my black dress and yesterday's makeup, her hair hastily thrown into a messy bun. She looked exactly like me, down to the nervous habit of biting her lower lip when cornered. For a split second, I had the surreal thought that I was watching myself walk across that marble floor, about to destroy a marriage and abandon 2 children for a man who wasn't even divorced yet. Mike, baby, please let me explain, Emma started, reaching for his arm. He stepped back like she'd burned him. Don't you dare baby me right now. His voice was low and controlled, but I could see his hands shaking. Our children are in Arizona, and you're here with him. Start talking. Emma's eyes darted between Mike and me, calculating. Even now, caught red-handed in a hotel lobby, she was trying to figure out how to spin this. It's not what you think. Marcus and we've been working on a proposal for the Henderson account, and... Stop, I said, standing up. Just stop lying. We know about the 27 times you've used me as cover. We know Marcus followed you from Portland. We know you've been planning this for days because you had to drive to Phoenix and back. Just stop. For the first time since we were children, Emma looked at me with something that might have been fear. Sarah, you don't understand. You've never been married, you don't know how complicated it gets. Mike and I have been having problems for months. What problems? Mike exploded, loud enough that other people in the lobby turned to stare. What problems, Emma? Because from where I've been standing, everything was fine until you started sneaking around with him. You work 60 hours a week. You're never home. When you are home, you're exhausted or watching sports or dealing with the kids. When was the last time we talked about anything other than schedules and grocery lists? The accusation hung in the air, and for a moment, I saw doubt flicker across Mike's face. But then his expression hardened again. So you decided to solve our communication problems by lying to me for 3 months? By using my sister-in-law to cover for your affair? By taking our kids out of state without telling me so you could spend the night with another man? Marcus understands me, Emma said, and the words came out like a confession. He listens when I talk. He makes me feel like I matter, like I'm more than just a mother and a wife and someone's employee. I listen to you, Mike said quietly. No, you don't. You hear me, but you don't listen. There's a difference. Emma's voice cracked. Marcus sees me. The real me, not just the woman who does laundry and makes school lunches and schedules dentist appointments. I wanted to scream at her that Marcus saw her because she'd been performing for him for months. That she'd been showing him the glossy, exciting version of herself while Mike got the real deal, the woman who worried about mortgage payments and stayed up all night when the kids had fevers and ugly cried during insurance commercials. Where is he? I asked suddenly. Marcus. Is he still upstairs? Emma's face flushed. He left. He had to get to work. He left you here to face this alone? Mike's laugh was bitter. That's a man who understands you better than your husband does? The one who disappeared the second things got complicated? The elevator dinged, and Marcus Hoffman walked out, wheeling a small suitcase and checking his phone. He looked exactly like I remembered from the company picnic, tall, polished, the kind of man who wore expensive cologne and never seemed to have a hair out of place. He stopped dead when he saw the 3 of us. Emma? His voice carried just enough confusion to make it clear he'd been hoping to slip out unnoticed. I thought you were handling this. The betrayal on Emma's face was almost painful to watch. Handling this? Mike stepped toward Marcus, and I could see every muscle in his body coiled like a spring. Is that what you call it when someone's marriage and family explode because of your affair? Marcus had the decency to look uncomfortable, but his response made my blood boil. Look, Mike, I understand you're upset, but Emma and I are adults. We didn't plan for this to happen, but sometimes. You didn't plan for this? I interrupted, my voice rising. You followed my sister from Portland to Seattle. You've been meeting in hotel rooms for 3 months. You just spent 18 hours here while her children were shipped off to Arizona without their father's knowledge. What part of that wasn't planned? Emma was staring at Marcus like she was seeing him clearly for the first time. You said you had a family emergency, she said slowly. You said you had to leave because your ex-wife called about your daughter. Marcus shifted his weight, still gripping his suitcase handle. I do need to go, Em. This situation it's messier than we anticipated. Messier than we anticipated? Emma's voice cracked. These are my children, Marcus. My husband. My life. This isn't some project that got complicated. The hotel lobby had become a theater, and other guests were pretending not to watch while obviously hanging on every word. A woman with a coffee cup had stopped walking entirely, and the desk clerk was craning his neck to see over his computer monitor. Maybe we should take this somewhere more private, Marcus suggested, glancing around nervously. No, Mike said firmly. I think this is exactly where we should have this conversation. In public, where you can't manipulate anyone else. He turned to Emma. Is this who you destroyed our family for? Someone who runs the second things get difficult? Emma's phone buzzed in her hand. She glanced down, and her face went completely pale. It's Mom. She's calling. We all stared at the phone as it rang. Our mother never called unless something was wrong. She was strictly a text and email person, claiming phone calls made her nervous. Answer it, Mike said. Put it on speaker. Emma's hand was shaking as she accepted the call. Hi, Mom. Emma, honey, I need you to explain something to me. Our mother's voice filled the space between us, crisp and unmistakably angry. I just got off the phone with Mike's mother, who called looking for you because apparently Mike has been trying to reach you all morning about some emergency at Jake's school. My stomach dropped. Mike's mom and our mom had been friends since Emma's wedding 8 years ago. They talked regularly, shared grandparenting duties, and compared notes about their children's lives. Mom, I can explain, Emma started. I hope so, because I'm very confused about why you told me Mike was in Chicago on business when his mother says he's been home all week. I'm confused about why you needed me to take the children for 3 days because of some crucial work presentation when you just posted on Instagram from what looks like a hotel room. Emma had posted on Instagram. While her husband thought she was sick with food poisoning and I thought she was at a work emergency, she'd been posting photos from the Marriott. The level of carelessness was staggering. And I'm especially confused, our mother continued, her teacher voice in full effect, about why Jake told me this morning that Mommy has been having lots of sleepovers lately and Daddy doesn't know where she goes. Marcus took a step backward, and I realized he was actually planning to walk away. To leave Emma standing there with her marriage imploding and her children asking questions she couldn't answer. Don't you dare, I said, pointing at him. Don't you dare walk away from this mess you helped create. Sarah, I understand you're protective of your sister, but this really isn't your. This became my business the second she used me as an alibi for 27 different betrayals, I snapped. This became my business when those kids started asking me why Mommy's never home anymore. Emma was crying now, clutching the phone as our mother's voice continued in the background, demanding explanations that didn't exist. Emma, are you listening to me? Mom's voice cut through the lobby noise like a blade. I asked you a direct question. Why did Jake tell me that Daddy cries when he thinks no one is looking? The words hit Mike like a physical blow. I watched him close his eyes, his face crumpling for just a moment before he composed himself. But it was too late, we'd all heard it. Even Marcus looked uncomfortable, finally understanding that this wasn't some abstract drama but real children asking real questions about their father's pain. Mom, please, Emma whispered, wiping tears with the back of her hand. Can I call you back? This isn't a good time. No, Emma Marie Chen, you cannot call me back. I have 2 confused children asking me why their family is falling apart, and I want answers right now. Jake asked me if Mommy and Daddy are getting divorced like his friend Tommy's parents. Lily won't stop crying for you, and when I try to comfort her, she says Mommy doesn't live with us anymore. Each word was like a hammer blow. I could see Emma's carefully constructed world crashing down around her, but what destroyed me was watching Mike's face. This man who'd been worried about his wife working too much, who'd texted me grateful messages for helping with childcare, who'd been covering for Emma's absences by telling the kids that Mommy was helping important people at work. How long has this been going on? Our mother's voice had shifted from angry to something much worse, disappointed. Because Jake has some very specific things to say about Aunt Sarah babysitting and Mommy not coming home and Daddy making phone calls late at night trying to find Mommy. Marcus cleared his throat. Emma, I really do need to go. My flight to Portland leaves at. Your flight to Portland? Emma spun around, mascara streaking down her cheeks. You said you lived here now. You said you transferred here permanently. The lobby had gone completely quiet around us. Even the background music seemed to have stopped. Marcus adjusted his tie, and I knew we were about to witness the final implosion of whatever fantasy Emma had been living in. The Seattle position was always temporary, he said carefully. The company wanted someone to oversee the transition period after the merger. My permanent position is back in Portland. I thought you knew that. I thought I knew a lot of things, Emma said hollowly. Mike stepped forward, his voice deadly calm. When does your temporary position end? Next Friday is my last day. The math was brutal. Emma had destroyed her 8-year marriage for a man who was planning to leave town in 6 days. She'd manipulated me, lied to her children, and driven them to Arizona for an affair that had an expiration date she apparently didn't know about. Emma, our mother's voice came through the phone, sharper now. I can hear other people talking. Where exactly are you right now? I watched my twin sister, my identical twin who shared my DNA, my childhood memories, my face, realize that she had lost everything for nothing. Marcus was already walking toward the exit, his expensive shoes clicking against the marble. Mike was staring at her like she was a stranger. And our mother was waiting for an answer that would confirm what everyone already knew. I'm at a hotel, Mom, Emma whispered finally. Are you alone? The pause stretched for an eternity. No. I see. Well, Emma, I think you'd better figure out how you're going to explain this to your children, because they'll be asking questions I can't answer. And when you do come to collect them, you'd better have a plan for fixing what you've broken. The line went dead, leaving us in crushing silence. Marcus was gone. He'd slipped out during our mother's phone call like the coward he was, leaving Emma standing in the hotel lobby with mascara streaming down her face and 8 years of marriage crumbling around her feet. I need to get the kids, Emma said suddenly, her voice hollow. I need to drive to Phoenix and get Jake and Lily. No. Mike's voice was firm. You need to go home and pack a bag. I'll get my children. They're our children, Mike. Our children? You shipped them off to another state so you could spend the night with your boyfriend. You've been using your sister as free childcare for 3 months while you destroyed our family. You don't get to play the concerned mother card now. I watched Emma flinch like he'd slapped her. Mike, please. I know I screwed up, but... Screwed up? His laugh was sharp enough to cut glass. Emma, you didn't forget to pick up milk or miss a parent-teacher conference. You had a 3-month affair and kidnapped our children to another state. That's not screwing up. That's... I don't even have words for what that is. Emma turned to me, desperation written across her face. Sarah, please. You have to help me fix this. We're twins. We're supposed to stick together no matter what. The familiar guilt tried to claw its way up my throat. How many times had she used those exact words when we were kids? When she'd broken Mom's favorite vase and begged me to say it was an accident. When she cheated on her SATs and convinced me to keep quiet because twins don't betray each other. I stuck by you for 28 years, I said quietly. I covered for you when you were late to your own wedding because you were having second thoughts. I lied to Mike's face for 3 months about your work schedule. I've been taking care of your children while you destroyed their family. When exactly was I supposed to stop sticking by you? This is different. This matters. It all mattered, Emma. Every lie I told for you mattered. Every time I watched Mike worry about you while you were with Marcus, that mattered. Every time Jake asked me why Mommy was always working and I made up some story about how important her job was, that mattered too. Mike pulled out his phone. I'm calling Southwest Airlines. There's probably a flight to Phoenix this evening. Mike, wait, Emma grabbed his arm. Let me come with you. Let me explain to the kids. They're going to be so confused. They're already confused. Jake thinks we're getting divorced, and Lily thinks she don't live with us anymore. According to your mother, our 3-year-old daughter won't stop crying for you. Mike's voice cracked slightly. Do you have any idea what you've done to them? Emma's face crumpled. I never meant for the kids to get hurt. I felt so invisible, Mike. Like I was disappearing into this life of carpools and laundry and grocery lists. Marcus made me feel like myself again. Marcus made you feel like a fantasy version of yourself, I said. The version that doesn't have responsibilities or consequences. But that's not who you are, Em. You're a mother. You're a wife. You're supposed to be my sister. Those aren't burdens, they're the people who love you. Sarah's right, Mike said, his phone pressed to his ear. And now you get to explain to Jake and Lily why Mommy needed to feel like herself more than she needed to be their mother. He walked away to book his flight, leaving Emma and me alone in the lobby. For a moment, she looked exactly like she had when we were 7 and she'd fallen off her bike, scraped and crying and looking to me to make everything better. I can fix this, she whispered. Sarah, I can fix this. I'll end things with Marcus. Marcus already ended things with you. He literally walked out the door rather than deal with the consequences of what you both did. Then I'll focus on my marriage. I'll go to counseling with Mike. I'll do whatever it takes. I stared at my twin sister, seeing my own face twisted with desperation and denial. Emma, Mike can barely look at you right now. You used me to enable your affair for 3 months. You drove your children to another state without telling their father so you could spend the night in a hotel room. What exactly do you think you can fix? The question hung between us like a blade, and I watched Emma's face cycle through emotions I'd seen 1,000 times before: anger, denial, bargaining. But never quite accountability. I can fix it because I have to, she said, her voice gaining strength. Because Jake and Lily need their mother, and Mike needs his wife, and you need your sister. We're a family, Sarah. All of us. That has to count for something. Before I could respond, Mike returned, his phone clutched in his white-knuckled grip. There's a 6:45 p.m. flight to Phoenix. I'll be back tomorrow afternoon with the kids. He looked at Emma with something that might have been pity. I called my lawyer too. Don't go back to the house while I'm gone. Your lawyer? Emma's voice cracked. Mike, please don't do anything permanent while you're angry. Give us a chance to work through this. Us? Mike's laugh was hollow. Emma, there is no us right now. There's me, trying to figure out how to tell our children why their mother shipped them off to grandma's so she could cheat on their father. And there's you, standing in a hotel lobby in your sister's dress, asking me not to make any permanent decisions. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Asterisk, tell Emma I'm sorry it ended like this. The Portland position is a good opportunity for me to start fresh. Hope you all can work things out. Marcus asterisk. I stared at the message, feeling a rage so pure it made my vision blur. He was apologizing through me, couldn't even be bothered to send his goodbye directly to the woman he'd just abandoned in the wreckage of her marriage. He texted me, I said, holding up my phone. Marcus. He's sorry it ended like this and hopes we can all work things out. Emma grabbed for my phone, reading the message with growing horror. He texted you? Not me? Blocked your number would be my guess, Mike said grimly. Probably happened the second he got in his rental car. Emma tried calling Marcus, her hands shaking as she dialed. The call went straight to voicemail, not even a ring. She tried again. Same result. On the third attempt, she got an automated message. The number you have dialed is no longer in service. He got a new phone, she whispered, staring at her screen like it might change the message if she looked long enough. He just got a new phone and disappeared. The finality of it seemed to hit her all at once. Marcus wasn't just leaving Seattle, he was erasing her entirely. No messy goodbyes, no promises to stay in touch, no acknowledgement that she'd upended her entire life for him. Emma, I said gently, what did you think was going to happen? Did you really believe he was going to ask you to leave Mike and the kids and run away to Portland with him? Her silence was answer enough. Mike shook his head, checking his watch. I need to go pack and get to the airport. Sarah, can you? He paused, seeming to realize what he was about to ask. Never mind. I'll figure it out. What do you need? I asked, though part of me was screaming to stop offering help, to finally set some boundaries with this family that had used me as their personal crisis management service. Someone to check on the house while I'm gone. Make sure Emma doesn't take anything that belongs to the kids. His voice was matter of fact, but the implication was devastating. He was already thinking like a divorced father protecting his children's interests. Mike, I would never take anything from Jake and Lily, Emma said, her voice small. 3 days ago, I would have said you'd never take them to another state without telling me either, Mike replied. But here we are. He walked toward the hotel exit, then stopped and turned back to face us both. Emma, I meant what I said about not coming to the house while I'm gone. I'm changing the locks tomorrow morning before my flight. If you need clothes or personal items, Sarah can get them for you. The lobby suddenly felt enormous around the three of us, like we were actors on a stage that had grown too big for our small, terrible drama. Where am I supposed to go? Emma asked, and for the first time since this whole nightmare began, she sounded like the scared little girl who used to crawl into my bed during thunderstorms. Mike's expression didn't soften. I honestly don't know, Emma. And for the first time in 8 years, that's not my problem to solve. I drove Emma to my apartment in complete silence, the weight of the morning's revelations pressing down on us like a physical thing. She sat in my passenger seat clutching a tissue box from the hotel lobby, occasionally sniffling but no longer crying. The shock seemed to have numbed her into a strange calm that was somehow worse than her earlier hysteria. When we pulled into my driveway, she finally spoke. Sarah, I need to call work. I'm supposed to be there this afternoon, and after everything that happened. You called in sick, remember? Food poisoning from your fictional work dinner. I turned off the engine, watching her face in the rearview mirror. Although I'm guessing Marcus isn't planning to show up for his last week either. Inside my apartment, Emma sat on the same couch where I'd folded Jake's Batman pajamas less than 24 hours ago. She looked smaller somehow, diminished in a way that had nothing to do with her physical size. The expensive dress she'd borrowed, the one she'd worn to seduce another woman's ex-husband, was wrinkled and stained with mascara. I should call Marcus's hotel, she said suddenly. Maybe he's still there. Maybe we just missed each other in the lobby. I stared at her. Emma, he got a new phone number. He blocked you. He walked out of that hotel and straight to the airport. What part of that suggests he wants to talk to you? You don't understand. We had plans, Sarah. Real plans. Her voice took on that familiar tone she'd used as a teenager when she was about to justify something inexcusable. Marcus and I talked about me getting a transfer to Portland. We were going to wait until his divorce was finalized, and then. His divorce was finalized 8 months ago, I interrupted. I looked it up last night. King County divorce records are public, Emma. Marcus Hoffman has been legally single since October. The color drained from her face. That's impossible. He told me they were still working through custody arrangements, that his ex-wife was making things difficult. His ex-wife remarried in December. To a Microsoft executive. They had their engagement announcement in the Portland Business Journal. I pulled out my phone, showing her the article I'd bookmarked at 3 a.m. during my research spiral. She looks happy. Definitely not someone who's pining for her cheating ex-husband. Emma stared at the photo of Marcus's ex-wife, a beautiful blonde woman in an elegant engagement photo, smiling next to a man who clearly adored her. He lied to me. About everything, it seems like. The divorce timeline, the permanency of his Seattle position, probably his feelings about your real plans too. I sat down across from her, feeling exhausted. Emma, did you ever actually talk to him about leaving Mike? Or was that just something you assumed was going to happen? She was quiet for a long moment, picking at the tissue in her hands. We talked about it in abstract terms. Like, wouldn't it be nice if things were different, or maybe someday when the timing is better? But Marcus always said he didn't want to pressure me, that I needed to make my own decisions about my marriage. He didn't want to pressure you because he was never planning to be the solution to your marriage problems, I said. Emma, you were his Seattle fling. His temporary entertainment while he finished his temporary job. My phone rang. Mike's name on the screen. How's your flight looking? I answered. Delayed 2 hours because of weather in Phoenix. I won't get there until almost midnight now. His voice was strained. Sarah, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be completely honest with me. Emma was watching me intently, obviously listening to every word. How long have you suspected? Mike continued. Because you figured this out awfully fast for someone who was supposedly as clueless as I was. The question hit me like a punch to the gut. Mike, I swear to you, I had no idea until last night. When I saw that text on her phone, everything just started clicking into place. But you kept track. You knew it was 27 times. People don't keep count of innocent babysitting favors. He was right, and the realization was devastating. Some part of me had been keeping score, had noticed the pattern even while my conscious mind made excuses for Emma's behavior. I guess I knew something was off, but I didn't want to believe it, I admitted. She's my sister, Mike. I wanted to trust her. Yeah, well, that makes 2 of us. After he hung up, Emma was staring at me with something that looked like betrayal. You suspected me? And you didn't say anything? I suspected you were taking advantage of me, I said. I thought maybe you were using babysitting as an excuse to go out drinking or shopping or having some kind of midlife crisis. I never imagined you were destroying your marriage. But you investigated me. You looked up Marcus, you called my work, you researched his divorce records. Her voice was getting sharper. How is that different from what Mike did? Because I didn't want to be right. I exploded. Because I was hoping I was wrong and you were just being selfish, not evil. Emma flinched like I'd slapped her. Evil? Sarah, I'm not evil. I was unhappy. So get counseling. Join a book club. Take up yoga. Take a pottery class. Don't destroy your children's family because you're bored with your life. It wasn't boredom, Emma said quietly. It was drowning. Do you know what it's like to feel like you're disappearing? Like every day you become a little less yourself and a little more just a function people perform? Despite everything, I felt a pang of sympathy. Emma, every married parent feels like that sometimes. That's why people talk to their spouses, or go to therapy, or find healthy ways to reconnect with themselves. They don't blow up their lives and expect their twin sister to help clean up the mess. She stood up abruptly, pacing to my kitchen window. I need to figure out what to say to the kids. When Mike brings them back tomorrow, they're going to have questions. They already have questions. According to Mom, Jake thinks you and Mike are getting divorced, and Lily thinks you don't live with them anymore. I followed her to the kitchen. Emma, those kids have been watching their family fall apart for months. They just didn't know why. Emma's phone buzzed on the counter. She grabbed it eagerly, probably still hoping for some word from Marcus, but her face fell when she read the message. "It's my boss," she said dully. "Asking if I'm feeling better and reminding me about the Henderson proposal deadline on Friday." "The proposal you've been working on with Marcus," I said. "I'm guessing that's going to be a problem now." For the first time since the hotel lobby, Emma looked genuinely panicked. "Oh God. Sarah, I can't do that presentation without him. He is half the research, and I don't even understand his part of the analysis." The irony was almost too perfect. Emma had risked everything for an affair that was about to torpedo her career too. Marcus had probably planned it that way, leaving her holding the bag for a project that would make her look incompetent in front of their biggest client. "Maybe you should focus on one crisis at a time," I suggested. "Save your marriage first, then worry about your job." Emma laughed bitterly. "What marriage?" "You heard Mike. He called his lawyer, Sarah. He's changing the locks. I think my marriage is already over." Looking at my twin sister standing in my kitchen in yesterday's clothes, her life in ruins around her feet, I felt something I'd never expected to feel, relief that we were finally telling the truth. The next morning, I woke up to find Emma standing in my kitchen at 6 a.m., fully dressed and holding a cup of coffee like she'd been awake for hours. "I figured out how to fix this," she announced, her voice carrying that manic energy she'd had as a kid when she'd hatch elaborate schemes to avoid getting in trouble. I sat up on my couch, disoriented. I'd given Emma my bed and spent the night on the sectional, listening to her cry through the thin walls until sometime after 3 a.m. "Fix what, exactly?" "Everything. Mike, the kids, my job, all of it." She pulled out her phone, showing me what looked like a spreadsheet. "I made a plan. Mike's flight doesn't land until 2:15 p.m., which gives me almost 8 hours to implement damage control." The spreadsheet was color-coded and detailed, with timestamps and action items that made my head spin. "Emma, what are you talking about?" "First, I'm going to call Marcus's old assistant in Portland, Jennifer something. I got her number from the company directory. She can tell me which hotel he's staying at, maybe even his new phone number." She was pacing now, gesturing with her coffee cup. "Then I'm going to drive down there and talk to him face to face. Make him understand what he's throwing away." My stomach dropped. "Emma, no. Absolutely not. Sarah, you don't understand. Marcus isn't thinking clearly. He's scared because everything happened so fast, but once I explained that I'm willing to leave Mike, that I'm serious about us. He blocked your number and got on a plane." I stood up, my voice rising. "Emma, he literally walked out of that hotel rather than deal with the consequences. What part of that says he wants you to chase him to Portland?" She scrolled through her spreadsheet, ignoring my protests. "After I talk to Marcus, I'll drive back, should be here by noon if I leave within the hour. Then I'll beat Mike to the house, get my key back from Mrs. Henderson next door where we keep the spare, and I'll be waiting when he brings the kids home. Mike said he was changing the locks. The locksmith can't get there until Monday, I called yesterday to check. So I'll have the weekend to show Mike that I'm committed to our family, that Marcus was just a mistake." Her eyes were bright with desperate hope. "I'll cook his favorite dinner, maybe surprise him with that expensive wine we were saving for our anniversary." I stared at my twin sister, recognizing the delusional planning that had gotten her into this mess in the first place. "Emma, listen to yourself. You're talking about ambushing your husband after you spent 3 months cheating on him. You think a bottle of wine is going to fix that? It's not about the wine, Sarah. It's about showing him that I choose him. That I choose our family." She pulled up another screen on her phone. "And I already handled the work situation. I emailed my boss at 4 a.m. saying Marcus had a family emergency and won't be finishing the Henderson proposal, but that I have everything under control." "Do you have everything under control?" Emma's pause lasted just a beat too long. "I'll figure it out. The presentation isn't until Friday, that gives me 4 days to piece together Marcus's research." My phone rang. Mike's name flashing on the screen at 6:47 a.m. couldn't be good news. "The kids won't stop crying," he said without preamble. "Jake keeps asking when we're going home, and Lily threw up twice during the night. Your mom thinks they're having some kind of trauma response." Emma grabbed for the phone, but I held it away from her. "How are you holding up?" "I haven't slept. Every time I close my eyes, I see Emma in that hotel lobby, or I think about her driving my kids to Arizona without telling me." His voice cracked slightly. "Sarah, Jake asked me if Mommy stopped loving us. How the hell am I supposed to answer that?" "What did you say?" "I told him that Mommy loves them very much, but that sometimes grown-ups make mistakes that hurt the people they love." "But Sarah, I don't know if that's even true anymore. How do you ship your kids off to another state for an affair if you love him?" Emma was frantically waving her hands, mouthing, "Let me talk to him," but I shook my head. Mike needed to say this, and she needed to hear it. "We're catching the first flight out this morning. Should be home by 1 p.m. instead of this afternoon." Mike paused. "Is Emma still with you?" "Yes." "Good. Keep her there until I figure out what I'm going to tell the kids about why Mommy isn't living at home anymore." After he hung up, Emma stared at me with something close to panic. "He moved up his flight. That ruins my timeline. I won't have time to drive to Portland and get back before." "Emma, stop." I grabbed her shoulders, forcing her to look at me. "There is no timeline. There's no plan that fixes this. Marcus doesn't want to be found, Mike doesn't want you in his house, and your children are traumatized. You need to accept that." "I can't accept that," she whispered, her manic energy finally cracking. "Sarah, if I accept that, then I lost everything for nothing." "You did lose everything for nothing," I said gently. "And the sooner you accept that, the sooner you can start figuring out how to rebuild whatever's left." Emma's face went through about 6 different expressions before settling on something I'd never seen before, complete desperation mixed with rage. "You know what, Sarah? I'm starting to think you want my marriage to fail." Her voice took on a sharp edge that made me step back. "You've been single your whole life, and maybe you can't stand watching me have something you've never had." The accusation hit me like a physical blow. "Are you seriously suggesting I'm jealous of your affair?" "I'm suggesting that you've been awfully quick to give up on my family. 24 hours ago you were babysitting my kids every week, and now you're telling me to accept that my marriage is over?" She grabbed her purse from the counter. "Maybe I should have asked someone else for help." Someone who actually wants to see me happy. I watched her head for the door, my mind racing. Emma, where are you going? To Portland. I'm going to find Marcus and get some answers. She turned back, her hand on the doorknob. And when I get back, I'm going to fight for my marriage instead of just rolling over and accepting defeat. With what car? Yours is still at the hotel, remember? That stopped her. I could see the wheels turning as she realized she'd need my help to get her car back, which meant explaining to the hotel why she was picking up a vehicle that had been abandoned in their parking lot for over 18 hours. Fine. Drive me to get my car, then I'm going to Portland. No. The simple word hung between us like a line drawn in the sand. Emma stared at me like I'd spoken in a foreign language. What do you mean, no? I mean, I'm not helping you chase after a man who blocked your number and fled the state. I'm not enabling another one of your disasters. I crossed my arms. And I'm definitely not helping you avoid the consequences of what you've done. Emma's phone rang. She glanced down and her face went white. It's work. It's 7 a.m. Why would my boss be calling at 7 a.m.? She answered on speaker, her voice artificially bright. Hi, Richard. You're up early. Emma, we have a problem. Her boss's voice was clipped and professional. I just got a call from Henderson Industries. They want to move the presentation up to today at 3 p.m. Something about a competing proposal from Morrison and Associates that they're reviewing tomorrow. I watched Emma's face cycle through panic, confusion, and dawning horror. Today? But Richard, that's impossible. Marcus had to leave town for a family emergency, and half the research materials. I don't care if Marcus is dealing with the apocalypse. This is a $12 million account, Emma. Henderson Industries is our biggest client, and if we're not ready for this presentation, Morrison is going to walk away with a contract that keeps this company running for the next 3 years. Richard, I understand, but without Marcus's data analysis. Then you'd better figure out how to contact him, hadn't you? Because if we lose Henderson, we're looking at layoffs before Christmas. Your layoff, specifically, since this was your project to manage. The line went dead. Emma stared at her phone like it might spontaneously combust. $12 million, she whispered. Oh God, Sarah, I'm about to lose the biggest account in company history because Marcus disappeared. Maybe you should have thought about that before you decided to sleep with your research partner, I said, immediately regretting how harsh it sounded. I have to find him. Emma was spiraling now, pacing around my small living room like a caged animal. Richard will fire me if I can't deliver this presentation. And if I lose my job on top of everything else. Emma, even if you found Marcus, do you really think he's going to drop everything to help you save your career? The man won't even answer your calls. But she wasn't listening anymore. She was typing frantically on her phone, muttering about Portland hotels and flight schedules. My phone buzzed with a text from Mike, asterisk landing in 20 minutes. Kids are asking if Aunt Sarah will be there when we get home. What should I tell them? Asterisk. I looked at Emma, who was now calling random hotels in Portland asking if they had a Marcus Hoffman registered. She'd completely lost touch with reality, chasing after a man who'd made it crystal clear he wanted nothing to do with her while her children were flying home to a broken family. Tell them Aunt Sarah will be wherever they need me to be, I texted back. Asterisk, but Emma won't be there. Asterisk. At 2:30 p.m., I was sitting in Mike's living room when he walked through the door with Jake and Lily. The kids looked exhausted and confused, clinging to their father like he might disappear too. Jake ran straight to me, wrapping his 5-year-old arms around my waist. Aunt Sarah. Daddy said Mommy's sick. Is she gonna be okay? I looked at Mike over Jake's head, seeing the raw pain in his eyes. She's going to be fine, buddy. Sometimes grown-ups just need time to figure things out. Lily, barely 3 and clutching her stuffed elephant, looked around the living room with wide eyes. Where's Mommy? Mike knelt down to her level. Mommy's staying somewhere else for a little while, sweetheart. But you're home now, and Daddy's here, and Aunt Sarah's here. Is Mommy coming for dinner? The question hung in the air like a loaded gun. Mike's face crumpled for just a moment before he composed himself. Not tonight, baby girl. But we're going to order pizza and watch movies, okay? While Mike got the kids settled with snacks and cartoons, I helped him bring in their overnight bags. His phone kept buzzing with calls from Emma. She'd apparently figured out I wasn't going to drive her to Portland and was now trying to reach him directly. She's called 17 times, he said, showing me his phone. Left 12 voicemails begging me to help her find Marcus so she can save her job. Are you going to listen to them? I listened to the first 3. That was enough. Mike's voice was hollow. Sarah, she's more concerned about tracking down her boyfriend than she is about seeing her kids. Jake asked me on the plane if Mommy forgot about us, and honestly, I don't know what to tell him anymore. At 4:15 p.m., Emma finally showed up. She'd somehow gotten an Uber to the hotel, retrieved her car, and driven straight to the house. She stood on the front porch in the same wrinkled dress from yesterday, looking like she hadn't slept or eaten in 24 hours. Mike opened the door but didn't invite her in. The kids are napping. You need to leave. Mike, please. I lost the Henderson account. Richard fired me an hour ago. I lost my job because I couldn't find Marcus, and now I have nothing left. Her voice cracked. I need my family back. I need you and Jake and Lily. You should have thought about that before you shipped them off to Arizona for your affair, Mike said quietly. Emma, you chose Marcus over us 27 times. You don't get to come back now because he abandoned you. It was a mistake. All of it was a mistake, and I know that now. Emma was crying, makeup streaking down her cheeks. Mike, I'll do anything. Counseling, therapy, whatever you want. Just please don't give up on us. Behind Mike, I could see Jake peering around the corner, watching his mother fall apart on the doorstep. The look on that little boy's face, confusion mixed with fear, made my heart break. Emma, I said, stepping forward. The kids can see you. She looked past Mike and saw Jake watching. For a moment, her face softened and she tried to smile. Hi, baby. Mommy missed you so much. Jake didn't run to her. He stayed behind his father, thumb in his mouth, a habit he'd outgrown months ago. Are you still sick, Mommy? I'm getting better, sweetheart. Mike closed the door gently but firmly. Through the window, I watched Emma sit down on the front steps and put her head in her hands. She stayed there for 20 minutes before finally driving away. That evening, after the kids were in bed, Mike and I sat in his kitchen drinking coffee and trying to process the wreckage of the last 2 days. I filed for divorce this morning, he said quietly. My lawyer says given the circumstances, the affair, taking the kids out of state without permission, I should get primary custody. How do you feel about that? Relieved, he admitted. And guilty for feeling relieved. Those kids love their mother, Sarah. But Emma proved she'll sacrifice anything, including them, for whatever she wants in the moment. 6 months later, Emma moved back to Portland. The divorce was finalized, Mike got primary custody with Emma having supervised visitation every other weekend, and I learned something important about the difference between loyalty and enabling. Emma and I are still twins, still connected by 28 years of shared history. But I'm no longer her accomplice. I'm just her sister, which, it turns out, means telling her the truth even when she doesn't want to hear it. The kids are doing better now. They still ask about mommy sometimes, but they've stopped expecting her to come home. And Mike? He started dating someone new, a kindergarten teacher named Rachel who makes Jake laugh and patiently braids Lily's hair. As for me, I finally learned to say no. And it turned out to be the most loving thing I could have done for all of us.